Hello, welcome to a new edition of the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens Black Table Talk podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Sellers, and I'm here with none other than our special guest,
Nate Cody.
Yes, Mr. Nate Cody himself. He has been an outstanding intern with the organization over these last couple of weeks, and he's in the studio with us today to share his insight and takeaways around what he's learned thus far while he's been working here for the organization. So I would like to start off, Cody, for you to just introduce yourself to our listeners and give them some insight to what brings you here to the Reentry Network.
Hello, my name is Nate Cody. I am a criminal justice student at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, and I'm interested in going to law school, and I came to DC this semester to look for internships. If anything regarding law or criminal justice reform or advocacy, and so I ended up here at the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens.
Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely, that's exactly right. You said, we are first and foremost an advocacy organization. That is absolutely correct. The work that we do to help our brothers and sisters who are coming home from a period of incarceration is invaluable in terms of their first 90 days of release, and helping them coming up with their reentry plan, helping them overcome those barriers to reentry, specifically as it relates to work, right? And so with that being said, you have been helping the organization in terms of our efforts around research and development. And so I know there's been quite a few policies that you've been working on. And I want you to, give your personal insight and takeaways around how you've learned or seen that the legal system can impact a returning citizen, particularly to the policy you were studying around the Second Chance Amendment Act or Restore the Vote, as well as the policy you were working on as far as Unlock the Box. And what did you grasp and learn as far as, like I said, the impact that it has on returning citizens, these policies?
So probably a lot of the policies regarding returning citizens in DC aim to kind of restore citizenship to returning citizens to the level it was at before they were incarcerated, because a lot of what I've learned here, a lot of what I've seen here is that some barriers to reentry and what kind of barriers people face after returning from prison. Mr. Stewart, the CEO, he refers to it, the term institutionalization, that kind of idea. That when you come back from prison, there's a lot standing in your way regarding finding jobs, being able to vote, which DC is actually pretty good about with the Restore the Vote Act. But yeah, mostly what I've learned from the policies is that there is a lot of barriers to reentry. One of them being having a record once you're out. That stands in the way of a lot of employment, housing, public assistance. So that's definitely something. That's something I've learned over here is perspective on how hard it is for some people once they've gotten out after serving their sentence, trying to have a meaningful reentry back into society. It's kind of hard.
Absolutely, and you're right. Those are definitely challenges, and it's very cumbersome and difficult to kind of face the reality coming home. And so you also had the opportunity to participate in the Crime Survivors March early on in your internship at the organization. And what was some insight and some things that you've learned as far as that experience? Because a lot of times we, as reentrants or returning citizens, don't have the knowledge around crime survivors and how it relates to returning citizens. So being at that march, what did it feel like? What was it like for you, and what were some of the things that you learned?
That march was Crime Survivors March. That was for victims of violent crime, and looking at it through like a restorative justice model lens. You can kind of see that Some victims or some people who perpetrate violent crime can be victims themselves of crime. So a lot of restorative justice models aim to address the cycle of crime, which has to do with someone is in a certain place in life, maybe due to some crime that was committed against themselves at some point, and then they turn to crime too. And so there's a lot of times it's a cycle, and that's where returning citizens kind of play into victims of crime too. But also it was a powerful March 210. There was, I don't know exactly how many people were there, but it was definitely a lot. And that was a good thing to experience, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that insight, especially your perspective on, you said, returning citizens are victims of crime too, and the fact that
yeah,
learned that. Go ahead, I'm sorry, what was you saying?
Well, yeah, no, I do agree with that. I mean, not even just crime, but just there's a lot of just being in prison itself. Some of the just conditions on their own could be considered an injustice to some people. So that's something to think about too.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So as we just continue on with our conversation, right, around reentry and all things related to your work that you contributed here to the organization, what are the, steps that you're going to take with this information, right, with this knowledge in terms of future aspirations and where you want to go with your work as it relates to criminal justice? I know you're going to school for that.
Yeah, so I graduate in the spring of next year, and I want to go to law school, become a lawyer, and learn criminal defense and trial advocacy. And while I came to DC to try and find some experience in that field, I think what I got from being at the National Reentry Network is the perspective. You kind of need a perspective, knowing what it's like for people who have been in the criminal justice system, and knowing what kind of barriers they face. But not only that, but the people who work here, the passion they have for advocacy is very inspiring to keep going with learning better ways and more efficient ways to fight the good fight.
Absolutely, you're right. Perspective is everything, and the fact that you're looking to go into the criminal justice field is important. Now that you've been here, it kind of helped, bring insight and sharpen your tools and knowledge around reentry, right? So I brought that up to say, just so that our listeners can see the importance of why you had this experience and this internship at our organization. So can you give a little insight as far as the advocacy training that you've attended while interning here at the organization? Because I know that this is a passion of yours now, and help those who may need also perspective when they think about their future aspirations and where they're going with their careers as well.
So we have advocacy trainings every month, and they're very helpful to learn. Because sometimes, actually always, laws and policies are worded very, very confusingly. It's hard to understand a lot of that stuff. That's another reason I want to go to law school, is try to find a way, get a better understanding of how to read that and understand some legal jargon that it's hard for some people to understand that. So for people who want to learn, especially returning citizens who want to learn what they can do in steps to seal or expunge their records, or to educate themselves on how to vote. Some of those things are hard to learn on their own because that legal jargon, it's hard to understand. And so advocacy training has been good for me too, just to kind of understand what the law says, and to understand what kind of things you can do to advocate in your communities. Because I think that's important for everyone to do. As long as if you have a voice, you should use it. And come to advocacy training.
Thank you for putting that plug in there. Absolutely. You have a voice, you should use it. That none other than Mr. Cody himself saying that, and raising awareness about advocacy as far as it relates to returning citizens. So you also know, like you mentioned, advocacy is on the, first and foremost priority here at the organization. You know that we're taking a public health approach, and you got to participate in the Greater Washington, D.C. Health Equity Fund Summit this fall. And I want you, for our listeners, to give perspective of what you experienced and insight around public health as it relates to reentry.
Yeah, public health and reentry. I think when people hear public health, they think like diseases and stuff, like flu or COVID. But I think something that a lot of people don't realize is public health just has to do with also violence, and it goes back to kind of the crime survivor thing. Is that circle that restorative justice looks at the cycle of crime. It's important to address crime as a public health issue, address recidivism as a public health issue, because at the end of the day, the justice system, for those that come in touch with it, it's meant to reform and to rehabilitate, and in a lot of cases it doesn't really do that, which can have a negative impact on the public and also the people who are incarcerated. And so the Public Health Summit, there's a lot of people there who were passionate about kind of intervening and kind of picking up where the justice system fails, and really helping returning citizens with their reentry journeys, and not kind of resorting back to old ways, which I think in a lot of cases the justice system doesn't really help with that, with reentry. So that's where a lot of these nonprofits and advocacy groups come in to kind of pick up where the justice system doesn't really meet the expectation.
Absolutely, well said and well put. You're right. A lot of times you are leaving it to the larger community outside of the courts and PD, the legal system, right, to address those inequities as it relates to reentry and public health. Very well put. You've had the opportunity, Mr. Cody, I know you remember this, going over to DC jail, right? And I want you to just, what was your lived experience around that? I don't know if you have ever had the opportunity to go into a correctional facility, but yeah, give us give us the lowdown.
I went to in high school. I took a criminal justice class and went on a field trip to a medium security prison to talk to some people. But that was kind of like surface. That was we only met them halfway. It was in the commissary or something. But there, when we went to DC jail, we really went in and we went to both the women's section and the men's section, and I got to see what it's like there, the people who are there, and that too is also inspiring because they're very good listeners, and they people who were incarcerated there are very eager to come back out and have a meaningful opportunity for reentry, and that also is very inspiring because it shows that even in the face of all the barriers and all the time incarcerated, you'd think it would be debilitating, but a lot of those people showed resilience and eagerness to come back and do good by themselves, and that's something that really is inspiring.
Absolutely, I'm glad you mentioned that because you're right. It is. We say that we should invest in people, not prisons, right here at the Reentry Network. And you're kind of alluding to that. We know reentry starts day one, not just the day that you are leaving out of the legal system. So, like you shared your experience of seeing the eagerness, the resilience, the effort that an individual is making towards reconciling relationships on the outside prior to release is, like you said a minute ago, it's all about what should be happening as far as rehabilitative services. And that's where organizations that you experience like ourselves can go in and have a discussion with the men and women who are housed in those institutions. And so I say all that to say, because I know that your time here at the organization is slowly coming to an end, but we couldn't have done this work that we've done over these last couple of months during the fall season without you, Cody, right? And so, yeah, that is true. I just wanted to hear from you, what are your advice, what are your story that you'll be able to tell and share with those who may not have access to a reentry organization like ours, or who haven't got that perspective, right? Like, what is it that you're hoping for? And in addition to that, like, as far as your experiences, right, and what you've learned, what would you like to see become of our legal system now that you know what you know?
While I've been here, we started a book club for for one of the programs we have. One of the books, the book that they're going over right now is Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson, and I.
You read the book, right?
I read the book. Yeah,
nice.
I was very interested. I've been meaning to read it, but I didn't. Once I heard that that's what they're going over, I said, all right, I'll go and read it. And something I learned from that book that I think I will take, that I see being done here, and that I think should be being pursued outside of this organization, just anywhere in criminal justice, is the idea that people are worth more than the worst thing they've done. And I think that speaks to an ability to see people see the true value of people rather than seeing, I think the justice system often sees people as just a problem to be swept away or taken care of. And I think one thing I think everyone should try to do more is to see people for their value as human beings. That's what I think this organization does a great job of.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. I too am trying to get through the Just Mercy book by Brian Stevenson. It is pretty good. I agree with you that that perspective of we as returning citizens are more than the sum of our worst mistake is a mantra, right? It is an affirmation, but it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done.
100%. There's a lot of things that are set in stone, but I think that can still change.
Absolutely, and thank you for giving that perspective of what you aspire our legal system to become based off of this book and what insight you've gathered and walked away from. I absolutely hope that others, begin to consider, that thought, and even going to the extent of our humanity around that, right? Like, what can we do? What can we say? What can we share with someone? And with that being said, I wanted to give you a chance to give any last closing remarks. I know that this is just the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more that you're going to do, Mr. Cody. There's so many thoughts and ideas probably, boiling over in your mind as far as like what you want to do to contribute to making this world a better place. And I just hope that your time here at the organization has helped nurture some of those thoughts and ideas. And so I'll give you some moments now to reflect on your experience overall and any inspiring words that you want to part ways with.
I appreciate the opportunity working here and being able to gain a unique perspective on the justice system that I think a lot of people don't have the opportunity to get, which is seeing the side kind of after incarceration, after everything, all the contact has been made with the justice system, and they're bringing it back out into society. I think that's a side that some people forget exists, is that the justice system has a far reach, and I am grateful to have had the perspective to see the resilience, and the compassion, and what it takes to be an advocate. So I think if there's one thing people should learn to do, is being an advocate. Be an advocate.
Oh, thank you, Cody. Well said. Well said. So with that being said, everyone, thank you, Mr. Cody, for coming in today to the studio. This isn't, I must say, this isn't goodbye. This is see you later. We will always be in contact and connected with you. Thank you for coming to hang with us over these last couple of weeks. Like I said, you have done an outstanding job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens, Black Table Talk, where we invest in people, not prisons. Take care.